Hi guys, my name's Seb Tudor, I'm the man on the Silver Mountain, and welcome back. Now today, one of you guys actually sent me a list of, apparently they're a uni student or something. They sent it to my company email, and all they did was sign the email D. So I don't know who you are exactly or what you're doing, but fair enough. Thank you for this. I hope this video helps once I'm through with it. But apparently they were doing something at their university, and as a result, they compiled a list of the most asked questions around relationships. And as a result, on looking at them, some of these are quite basic, some of these are quite simple, and so I was like, okay, well, sure, fine. From what I understand, these are the most searched questions, so things online, but the email was a little vague, so I'm not 100% sure. But either way, let's kick off. So the first one that's at the very top of the list is my girlfriend or boyfriend cheating on me? And it's like, how would the internet know this? But okay, let's go with this. Firstly, the internet probably won't know, so it's probably not worth Googling this one. Unless you're looking for signs of it. But in which case, the signs are going to potentially differ from person to person. It's probably going to be more to do with them generating distance, or, you know, if your relationship has become a lot more guarded and they've kind of shut themselves down, they don't share as much with you, all of those kind of things are potential indicators. But again, you know your partner better than anyone else. It would be looking for ways that they are acting completely out of the normal. Yeah? If they used to talk to you a lot and now they don't talk to you at all. If they used to want to spend so much time together and now they pop in, say hi, and then disappear again for an hour before returning home. If they're doing. If they used to not worry about you using their phone, or touching it, and now even when you just go to pass it to them, they snatch it away from you out of fear or panic. Those kind of moments where it doesn't add up with the way that they've acted before is probably a good indicator that something is going on. But in which case, then the next thing to do would be to talk about it, because it could be something completely different. You can maybe, in a very open way, go, look, you seem to have been acting really weird lately. What's going on? And then you're giving them the option to come clean if they are doing it, or it could be something completely different that you never even considered. And so either it's you showing that you pay attention, showing that you care, showing that you want to know, or you've now found out and now you can make your own choice as to what happens next. There's not really much more you can say about this, because whilst I've talked about cheating and things, a lot of the stuff that I've done on cheating on the channel, and so on, tends to be the reasons why people do it, how it operates, the statistics behind it. Whilst here you're looking at kind of how can you turn yourself into some kind of lie detector to work out if they are or aren't cheating on you, but without asking them, but by asking the internet. And that's a tough thing to do. There's, whether you're a guy or a girl, look for the inconsistencies, but the inconsistencies could be anything. Approach with an open mind. That's the most that I can really say on that one. What's the next one? How do I ask someone out? Like, I can understand why this would be one coming from a university, but it's a case of it's not the most difficult thing to do when it comes to asking someone out. You just ask. This is something that can be really tough for people, because you need to kind of suck up a little bit of courage and get on with it. But just going up to someone, asking if they would be free to do something and whatever else, remain relaxed as you can be, stay positive, be direct, and try and be friendly rather than flirty from the outset. Yeah? The going in and being flirty as a way to try and ask someone out doesn't really work because it puts people on the defensive. As per going, and one of the best places to find people to engage with for potential romances are places that you have interests in. And so as a result, you can bond with them first in a meaningful way over what you're interested in. Going to the bookstore, and go in and have a chat with someone who's picked up the same book from the same section as you. Give them a recommendation. Ask them if they've got a recommendation for you. If because you're at a loss, and that's why you're there to pick up a new book. Just bond over that, and then be like, do you know what? This was actually kind of fun just talking to you about this stuff. Would you like to go grab a coffee sometime? Exchange numbers, exchange email addresses, whichever works, and then that's it done, right? Then it's when it comes to going out and dealing with that kind of thing afterwards, that's a slightly different situation when you're actually on the date and whatever else, and we'll talk about that. I've done other videos about that, to be fair. Dig around in the channel, I'm sure you'll find them. But when it comes to it, it's just a case of going, here you go, I'm relaxed, I'm being positive, this has been fun, and I'd like to do it again. It's not a difficult thing. It's the same kind of thing that you'd do if you went and did something with a friend. Assume friendliness and friendship to allow for that entryway into something more, maybe. But then, what's the other thing to consider, though, is what's the worst thing that could happen if you don't ask? Well, if you don't ask, the worst thing that could happen is that you potentially miss out on a very meaningful relationship, even if it's just a very meaningful friendship. What happens if you do ask, though? Well, either you could potentially go off and have a great time, potentially move into a relationship and have a really good relationship with someone that has interests similar to yours or whatever else, or they say no. And guess what? Them saying no means that it doesn't mean that if you start here and asking them has the potential to take you up here, or where else does it leave you? Oh yeah, back where you were to begin with. The only way you can go is up. You can't go. Nothing that you do here is going to kind of pull you down below that neutral point that you start at. Keep that in mind. What's the next one? How do I go on a date? Okay, I guess I am getting into this one then. So when you say how do you go on a date, look for fun. Like, if you're having fun, then there's a good chance that other person will. Look for maybe something to engage with that's outside of the two of you, for both of you to pay attention to. Maybe something that the two of you could work together as a team on instead of anything else. Like when you go out for dinner with people or whatever else, it tends to be kind of across a table, one-on-one, and unless you've got something that can break the ice, then it can kind of be very iffy. An example, when Hannah and I first went and had food together, when we first got together, it was literally kind of the first substantive time we had seen each other without anyone else around. Like we went for food, and she was we were chilling out, and I was showing her around where I live, and just having a chat, having a walk, and we went and grabbed food, and things were still a little awkward, a little tense. She had come to see me, and all of this kind of stuff was on my mind about how I really liked her and I didn't want to make a mess of this and all that kind of thing. And then as we sat down to eat, she had this big old tomato on her plate, and she jabbed the fork in, it shot tomato juice in my eye, over my glasses somehow, and blinded me. It hurt like hell, but it was hilarious. And as a result, that kind of icebreaker, not something to replicate, I might add, but that kind of icebreaker was a random situation that then allowed for much, much better times to kind of blossom from it afterwards. You can't bank on having random tomato juice shots flying and hitting people in the eye. So you have to look for something that you can use outside of yourself to bring the two of you close together. And one of the ways to do that is usually something along the lines of a fun activity that the two of you can work together on in opposition to something else. Yeah? The enemy of my enemy is my friend, in which case make the two of you friends against a common enemy. This can be anything from like going and doing stuff that's just a fun little competition, doing a class together, suggesting that you two go and go on a little adventure and find some stuff, in which case it's kind of you two against the world, and it's going from point A to point B, going, you kind of get together at point A, but you've come together from two separate places, but by the time you get to point B, you're turning up as the two of you, so there's that association of you're there with each other instead of just randomly showing up and connecting. And then the last thing that I'd say on this is, as much as you may be nervous on a date, don't get drunk. Don't do it. If you're a man, being manly has a lot more to do with dignity and confidence than it does to do with how much you can down. Don't just get wasted, even if you're nervous. Girls, there is nothing attractive about you feeling your nerves and drinking so many glasses of whatever it is that you want to drink, to the extent that your limbs no longer function, and he basically has to end up carrying you home. And this goes in every variation. Don't get drunk. Have a couple, sure, to be sociable if that's your thing, but otherwise just don't bother with it. It's not worth it. Make the best of what you have by yourself, before introducing them to a version of you where your limbs don't work and you can't speak properly. Okay, next question. How many dates before we're exclusive? See, now this is a one of those questions that friends used to ask. Like, I remember this as a kind of secondary school question. I'd be like, how many dates should I go on before we're a proper couple? Oh, Facebook official. When should that happen? It's like, how about you get to know the person first, and when you feel comfortable, then fine. Or actually have the conversation with the person that you're with about whether they think you are or aren't exclusive and when they want that to happen. Every relationship is different. There aren't any rules that kind of span everybody. Ask the question, make your own choices, make your own rules. That's all I got to say on this one. Go and have a sit down with that person that you are with and go, so what are your thoughts on being exclusive? How many dates should we go for? When do when would you feel comfortable with being just with me? Time it right so that it's not just first date, first thing out your mouth. When would you feel comfortable with being just with me all by yourself forever? No one would like that. No one. Not even the creepiest of people would probably get behind that. So don't do it then. But, give it a time. Usually it takes between 1 to 2 months, maybe 3, of getting to know someone before the whole, yes, you're a couple, yes, it's a solid thing, becomes a thing. And it usually takes about 6 months for the kind of honeymoon period where you've got your rose-tinted specs on, to kind of fall away, so that you're actually appreciating the person in front of you for who they are rather than what you thought they were. So, and at times that can make you fall in love with them more than you did prior. But again, keeping into account that those are kind of your averages across people, statistically, and you need to make your own choices and your own rules and have your own conversations with the person that you want to have that relationship and that exclusivity with, because otherwise it's not going to amount to anything. You need to have that communication, that conversation with them, not the internet. Next one. Why aren't they calling me back? I did a whole video on this, guys. There are a few reasons why people might not be calling you back. They could be busy. Their phone might not have go off because technology is a fickle mistress. Um, it could be that they have seen your message but aren't in a good situation to communicate back. For instance, seeing a message whilst at a funeral does not mean you should instantly reply to it. It means that you should probably at the very least wait until the corpse is in the ground or on fire. And so as a result, it's a case of they're maybe just waiting to an appropriate time for them to reply. Or it could be that, yeah, they aren't necessarily going to communicate back, especially if it's a guy that's being waited on to communicate. Guys aren't as communicative as women. That's a thing. That's just a natural trend because of the way the men and women function. And so he's not going to be as worried about leaving it for a little while to get back to you if he's in a situation where his attention is elsewhere, or if he needs to worry about it. Or, as said, maybe he just hasn't seen it. Maybe his phone didn't go off. Maybe his phone's dead. Who knows? Just give it some time, and if it doesn't happen, then again, what have you lost? Chances are you are back to that neutral state of before you even engaged with this person. You've not lost anything. You're just back to normal. It might not be the normal that you want, but you're just back to normal. Next one. Next one is, how do I make a long distance relationship work? Well, I can comment on this one considering I'm in one at the moment, and it can be very tough. Missing each other can be absolutely miserable. But the way to tackle it, in my view, is through communication. I talk about communication way too much anyway, but have things that you share with each other. Talk to each other every day. Update each other on your lives. The one thing that stands out to me about relationship, the kind of long distance relationships, of which I've had a few actually, and they've been some of the more rewarding relationships I've had, to be fair. The world of technology helps us with things like Skype and Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp and Discord and everything else. All of those things are great tools in the first place, but making sure that you do communicate through that and know that the two of you are there is important, sure. But then outside of that, the distance, and the whole distance makes the heart grow fonder thing, there's an element of truth to that, where if I take a look at my relationship with Hannah, for instance, and the other relationships that have been amongst our friends that have been going on for around the same amount of time, where those people have been able to see each other much more frequently, much more readily, Hannah and I seem to have a greater understanding of each other and a much greater appreciation of one another than some of those other friends of ours or some of those other people that we know. And the reason this seems to be is because we talk and we watch stuff together online, and we do all of those things that we would maybe do together. We play games, we work on writing stuff together, we watch TV shows and movies, we talk a lot, share news stories and whatever else we find with each other every day. And yet the whole physical kind of distracting part of a relationship that sometimes can be the basis, the sole kind of element for a relationship, depending on how it started, that's not there. And so when we actually get the chance to see each other physically, that's not something that we take for granted. It's something that we very much love and appreciate, just having each other around. Going to sleep with Hannah actually next to me is far more relaxing and allows me to sleep better, someone who doesn't sleep well at all, than when I'm just here by myself, or even when we end up just drifting off asleep on Skype to each other or something. And it's like, as a result, that's not a moment that I take for granted or that's just the norm. It's something that's special. It's something that stands out that I can take note of. And as a result, I'm not taking her for granted. She's not taking me for granted. We're incredibly close. We know each other very well. and yet there's always something new for us to do. There's always something fun for us to do. There's always some other way that we can engage with one another and work with one another to make stuff work for us as a whole the way we want it to. And that's the kind of thing to keep in mind when it comes to long distance relationships. It's all about that communication and being as fulfilled in what you're doing with each other as possible, so that then when it actually comes to you being together in person, it's something that is special and stands out to you as special, and that you never lose sight of how important it is and how amazing those people are that you are with, or that person that you are with rather. And those are my kind of broad thoughts on how to make a long distance relationship work. Try and keep it normal, communicate as much as possible, do everything that you would do in person, but then it just shows that when you do it in person, it's better and it's so much more fun. And you can. I personally kind of just taking the moment to go and realize when I get to hold Hannah's hand, for instance. In my mind, it's a case of going, this is something that I will never get tired of doing. This is something that is special and that I feel good about. And so it's not a case of going, oh yeah, well I always hold her hand and everything else. It's that appreciation and that acknowledgement in the moment of when you are together that can then fuel the long distance side by keeping the communication and everything else flowing and normal, but living off the memory and realizing how much you miss that memory not being a physical reality at the time. So I think I'll leave that there before I start continuing to ramble on that one. What's the last one? I think this is the last one. Yeah. How do you date your best friend? I mean, in theory, I would say that the person that you're in a relationship with is likely to become your best friend over time. At the very least, if you're communicating well, if you prove that you can trust each other, learn to trust each other, share a lot of meaningful kind of moments in your lives and things like that, I'd say that you probably end up with, if you were actually going to put out a hierarchy of who is the person you can trust the most and work with the most, and who's supportive of you and who you support and all that kind of thing, as a friend beyond anything else, I would say that that's what your partner probably ends up being, especially the longer term your relationship kind of runs for. But there's one important question to ask, and this is something that I've heard asked in all kinds of situations, but especially around dating coaching and relationship coaching. It's, if you weren't attracted to the person, would you still be friends with them? Would you hover around them? If the answer is yes, then chances are, that's a good indicator of the fact that you're already friends with that person. It's probably a good thing that being in a relationship with them is fine. In regards to anything else, then it's if you wouldn't be friends with them if they weren't incredibly gorgeous to you or something, then chances are that relationship won't last very long. But I don't think that's the only thing this question is asking. How do you date your best friend? I think it's going more. It's easy to date your best friend in terms of if you're in a relationship with them already or they grow into being your best friend or whatever else. But how do you get there? And it's like, well, first off, don't be daft enough to just try and write your friends off, and be worried about ruining relationships and things. Try and be objective about it. Don't just go, oh, they're off limits because they're my friend, I don't want to ruin things, because it's not necessarily ruining something if you're just honest with a friend. If you have feelings for them, then that's your thing to deal with, not theirs. But if you won't know if they reciprocate in any way, or can reciprocate in any way, unless you actually voice that. So it's something to keep in mind there. but also, take that moment to step back and actually go, would this work? Because if you know full well that it's not going to work, either due to time, due to money, due to distance, due to whatever, then just be happy with what you've got and roll forward. If though it would work with all of those things that you can evaluate, then yeah, sure, go and communicate. So risk it. Make a point of talking about it, of asking, because who knows what's going to happen. You might end up with a really great relationship that's already basically custom built for you. But anyway, those are the questions. So thank you to D for sending those to me. Please get back in touch, because I'd like to know more about why this was actually compiled, because you didn't say. But hey ho. Either way, thank you very much. I hope that rather than just receiving an email back, this has been an interesting collection of discussion points and anecdotes and whatever else. Otherwise, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the video later. Take care. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you found it at all interesting or useful, then please drop us a like, share this video, and subscribe for more. And I'll see you in the video later. Take care.